Hello, thanks for joining me on another edition of Real Money Stories. I'm your host, Jason Butler, and today I'm joined by Ryan King. Hello, Ryan.
Hello, Jason. Thank you for having me, mate.
Yeah, and what's your ACCA? What are you known as?
Making money simple online.
Yeah, this guy is a dude. Now, look, if you haven't seen him already on Instagram, Making Money Simple, this guy, every single little post, every little tile, one at a time, he's trying to make the world a better relationship with money. And what a top guy. So tell me, just before we go into your backstory, tell us just what the whole motivation for that is and what it does and what you're trying to achieve with it.
So I originally started it at the start of 2019, and there was probably three main reasons why I started it. The first one was just I've always been interested in money, in finance, always sort of read books, sort of tried to gain knowledge around personal finance. The second reason was I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and that had a big impact on me. I feel like a lot of people have that same sort of feeling. And then the third reason was I was sort of looking into passive income, starting a side hustle. I was at uni at the time, but I sort of understood that I didn't just want to work a 9 to 5 and then that be it. I wanted to do something extra. So then three things sort of came together. And then 2019, I started it originally as a blog, and it's sort of grown from there since.
And you've got about 15,000 followers, haven't you? So what is it they love about your content, people, do you think?
I'm not really sure. No, hopefully it's that I try to make it quite easy to understand. So jargon free. So even beginners or someone who has never invested before or studied anything to do with finance can understand the content. And also try to make it relevant. So simply like index funds, property. So I guess it's sort of big topics, but making them easy to understand. It's probably the word.
Yeah. I love it. If you haven't checked it, check his Instagram thing out. Making Money Simple. Fantastic. Well done.
Cheers,
love
Jason.
It. Now, look, Ryan, let's go back to little Ryan in the early days. What were your earliest money memories? Can you think of that?
I was quite lucky really growing up. I haven't really got any bad connotations with money. I was quite privileged in the sense that my parents both always had jobs. We always had a house, always had food on the table, that sort of thing. But one of my earliest memories was my grandparents. I used to do chores for them around the house, and then each time my nan would give me £1. So right. Realistically, I wasn't even getting a minimum wage back then. So but no, so that was probably my earliest memories of earning money. But yeah, as I said, I was sort of quite lucky. I never really went without. My parents both worked, so I was quite lucky in that sense.
So it was a comfortable upbringing, and your early sort of association was do a load of work for your gran and get a quid.
Essentially, yeah.
Okay. And what sort of conversations, because I'm fascinated about this, were there conversations about money? What can you remember as you were growing up at the family home? Did you talk about money around the table, or was it career focused, or did your mum and dad make comments about other people and their spending? Was there any narrative at home?
We didn't really openly talk about money, but there would often, if we wanted to buy something, my mum would probably be more the person that's against it because she wouldn't like buying big purchases, whereas my dad is a bit more, I guess, a bit more loose with money. He's not as probably frugal as my mum is.
All right.
But we didn't really openly discuss it. But I guess growing up, I probably didn't really ask them many questions until I was probably about 15 or 16. So it's probably also me not asking questions.
So can you think, because most of our money values and our money scripts, as we call them, are embedded in us when we're children. And even if we're not speaking about money, we learn from what we see, right? So what did you learn? Where were your what views were you forming about money? By the time you got to 16, what was your attitude to it? Were you all about the good time? Were you all about, if I spend £5, it's like cutting my arm off? And where were you on that scale?
I was always a bit of a saver. So when I got my first part-time job at a supermarket, well, actually a newspaper round, but then I got a part-time job at a supermarket during sixth form when I was 16, and I saved up money saved all my money pretty much for about 2 years, and then managed to buy myself my own MacBook in cash before I went to uni. So I'd say the saving
rockstar. Rockstar. I mean, that wasn't normal though, was it?
Yeah, but it probably wasn't normal. I was quite lucky in the sense that my birthday's in July, so I didn't really turn 18 until very late. So whereas a lot of my friends would be going out to the pub, I obviously couldn't. So I was just working at a supermarket, saving a bit of money, and I managed to get, my own laptop. So I think that the saving gene, and I guess the personal finance sort of stuff, is probably embedded in me somehow. But one thing I would say that is, I know my dad was big on paying off the mortgage. He wanted to pay off his mortgage by 50. So that was quite a big thing. And that's probably been embedded in me in terms of, not having debt and paying down the mortgage, that sort of thing.
So did your dad ever talk about that before 50? So you said there weren't many money conversations. Did he express the desire to be debt free when you were growing up?
If I asked him, because as I sort of become a teenager and started studying stuff like business and economics in school, and I became more interested, then I would start asking questions. And that's when, looking back, being debt free is probably a good, he never used them words. He always said he just wanted to pay off his mortgage by the time he was 50.
But he did say it. But he did say it though. He did say it to you.
Yeah.
So although he wasn't saying it was debt, he said, I want to be mortgage free.
Yeah, but that's a good way to sum it up, really. I guess he wanted to be debt free by 50 and then he did it. So he was happy.
Well, there's an interesting thing. I'll just touch on this because I had 3 objectives. I had my own first financial plan done by the late, great David Norton when I was 29, after I'd come through being a train wreck of a lunatic with my money in my 20s, right? I had 30 grand of unsecured debt. I mean, don't even go there. I had a nightclub. I mean, it's stories that we'll say on another day. But I remember at 30, he said, what do you want out of life? I said, I wanted 3 things, right? To be financially independent by the time I'm 50, to be completely debt-free by the time I'm 50, and to make sure that I can give my 2 children a great education and a great start in life. Yeah. And I did achieve all 3 of those. And I can still remember when I paid the mortgage off, it's not a logical thing. It's an emotional thing.
Yeah.
It is so, like, you can't drive it around, can you? I'm mortgage-free, right? But I'm telling you, I have a peace in me. I have an absolute peace in me as a person. I don't care what anything happens in the world. I've got no payments. And there's something liberating about that. So I can see why you would start picking that up from your dad. So you had that in you as a young man, that your dad sort of expressed that to you as a really important thing to do, right? Yeah. To get mortgage free. Okay, so then you did the supermarket job. You moved on from the pounder a gig, as it were. You got your MacBook. You went off to uni. How did you survive going through uni financially? Because some people come out as a complete and utter wreck, don't they?
Yeah, so I was quite lucky in the sense that because I had been working, I had some money saved up. And obviously with the maintenance grant that I got, I was essentially able to sustain myself. So I should say, when I was 18, by this point, I hadn't really read any personal finance books and I wasn't investing.
But you were in reasonable shape, right? So you avoided debt and you had a little bit of savings. Yeah,
I didn't have any debt. I didn't have a credit card at that point. I'd saved some money and I was living within my means, but having a good time whilst being at uni is probably the best way to sum it up.
Yeah. So you weren't what I call a complete learning geek. You were out there making friends, as we call it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So when did the epiphany, when did you start learning about personal finance? What was it? Was it just a hunger for information, or did someone give you the book?
So I'd always been interested in like money and the stock market. People would sort of chat about it randomly. Yeah. This stock's gone up by this amount, but I never really took much notice of it. But it was then in 6th form when I first studied economics, when I was 16, was probably when I first became interested with essentially the economy and how the world works and money. And then I ended up studying at a university. So then it sort of grew through that. And I think it was in my 2nd year of university was when I started reading we got given reading, of course, but I started reading my own like personal finance or investing related books. Yeah. Also watched a lot of YouTube videos from like personal finance vloggers, that sort of thing. And then, probably the epiphany was when I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, I think at the end of my 2nd year of uni. And that's when it sort of started kicking into gear, like, assets, need to get cash flow.
So what was I was just going to say, what is the main message you got from that book? Because I've read it several times, as you'd expect, yeah?
The main message, I'd say, is probably the simplest message, which is just essentially invest in assets, not in liabilities. Yeah. But if you look at the general population and like the high levels of consumer debt, and people in this country every few years, they get a bigger house, they get a bigger car, they go on a nicer holiday. They're not adhering to literally the simplest message of the book is to invest in assets. And then all them liabilities that I've just mentioned, one day them assets can pay for them liabilities without even needing to worry about them. I'd say that's probably, and that's why then soon after that I started investing to then try and start the process myself.
Top man. So you came out of uni in reasonable shape, would you say? Did you have an
Yeah,
overdraft? Because a lot of people, it's normalized having an overdraft. The banks just want you to have it, right? Because it's
yeah.
free.
I did have an overdraft set up, but I've actually never been into my overdraft once, which I'm quite
Oh,
happy
so you
with.
had a facility, but you never used it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I came out, well, I should say actually as well, I did a placement year in between my second and third year of uni. So I
Right.
was working for a year in London. So I essentially went into third year being a rich student because I'd been working for a year and had saved money. So I'd say probably by the end of second year, I probably was in decent shape. And then going into third year, because I had a few £1,000s saved up from working, I was in pretty good shape as far as being a student goes.
So just before we move on from that, what would you say is the ultimate way of coming out of uni with the minimum amount of financial baggage? What would be your sort of key takeaways on that?
So with uni, the difficult thing is that it can be difficult to get a job. So I didn't have a job when I was at uni, although I did do a placement year, but it can be difficult to have it. So you haven't got a steady stream of income, and the maintenance loans or grants that you get are in bulk, normally 2 or 3 times a year.
Mm.
So I would say the best thing is to set up a budget, even though they may not be glamorous or fashionable. If you just get a spreadsheet going,
Mm.
so you know you're going to receive £1,200 in October. That's got to last you to Christmas. You need to have some sort of budget, so you're not just going to blow that in Freshers Week and then not have any money left for the rest of the term. And if you can get a job, particularly if you do maybe a course with less contact hours, and if you get a job even working 10 hours a week, that can get you, a couple £100 a month, which can just help facilitate, you enjoying your time. Because it was also, a trade-off where you obviously want to not get into debt and be like struggling, but then you also want to have fun because you're still young. It's the best years of your life, people say. So you've got to try and find a good middle ground.
Yeah, I see. Okay. So have a budget and trying to just eke out the maintenance loan. Just don't blow it all in the first week.
Yeah,
Got it. Yeah, yeah. Okay. It's a very good thing. And my daughter's just graduated and she runs all my social media and does all my platforms and all my digital stuff. And she never ever used her overdraft. She had a budget.
yeah,
She had the maintenance loan as it is now.
yeah,
And she never had a job because she just wanted to focus on the studies.
yeah,
And but she just said some of her friends, I mean, loved them to death, but some of them would sit there and say, I don't understand where all this money's gone.
yeah.
Why I've got a £3,000 overdraft. It sort of just happened to them, right? So it's just it's good to be weird,
No,
actually. Be different.
generally, I can resonate with that because I had one friend who just never seemed to have any money, no matter what. He was always like, he got his maintenance loan. 2 weeks later, he's got no money. Like, well, where's all your money gone?
Yeah,
You got like £1,000.
yeah, I know. Okay, so what happened? So what was the degree you did, by the way?
Economics.
Oh, economics. Okay. Where did you do that? Leeds, did you say?
Loughborough.
Oh, Loughborough. Blimey. So economics and PE, they're the big things there, aren't they? A
Yeah.
lot of people do physical education there.
Yeah, the bigger thing is the sport, obviously.
Yeah.
And then the other
Sports
thing is
science,
probably,
they call it, don't they? Yeah.
yeah, sports science. And then the other big thing is probably engineering.
Yeah. Good.
Quite
That's
a big
good.
engineering
Good. Yeah, good uni. So you left there. What did you then do? Did you take some time out or did you go straight into the employment market?
So I did a placement year, and then I managed to get a job from that placement year. So I went back straight. So I graduated in the July of last year, had a few months off, and then started last September. So I've now been, I guess, in full-time work for just over a year.
And what do you do now then? What's your role?
And I'm an accountant.
Oh, really?
So yeah.
But you seem quite sort of outgoing and fun and
that is part of the job. You've got to be friendly with clients. Yeah. So I'm currently and I'm essentially studying for the ACA exams, so the Chartered Accountancy exams. I've done 9 of them and I've got 6 left. So hopefully by this time next year I'll be a chartered accountant and then think of the next move from there.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, and it's really important, I think, to just share this with people, particularly our younger listeners, that your degree doesn't have to define where you go. I mean, there's lots of people who've gone on to done completely different things, but also your basic training. So your accountancy qualification sets you up, right? But you could do anything with that, couldn't you?
Yeah. So, I mean, what I would say the first thing is, before I mention that, is that I know as well nowadays, particularly at the big accounting firms, you haven't necessarily got to have an accounting background or degree to join. So I know I did economics, so it's, I guess, in the same sort of realm. There are grads who joined who did art, history, sciences. So
some of the humanities and that, yeah.
Yeah. So to actually, I guess, work at a firm nowadays, it's not as strict. You have to be X, Y, Z. But yeah, the good thing is that I'm learning by doing the exams. I'm learning a lot about accounting, tax, financial statements. So I reckon, although I probably could go on to maybe do a range of things, I probably would stay in that sort of realm of maybe an investment analysis or fund manager, something like that. That's what I'm thinking at the moment. So I probably will stay in the finance realm. But yeah, you are right then. I think once you get a professional qualification, like one you've got, not necessarily just a chartered accountant, but financial advisor, insurance, banking, whatever it is, that's then like your sort of backbone. So that's always like the sort of safety net where you could try new things and then it doesn't work out or you don't like the job. Where you're a chartered accountant, you can go back and do what you were doing anyway.
But it's a bit like I'm having a house built in my garden at the moment, right? It sounds grand, but it's a bit of a nightmare. But anyway, it's good fun. There's one guy there who trained as a bricklayer, and he's a brilliant bricklayer. He's a qualified, he can actually drive all the diggers, including the massive, enormous things. He can plaster. He can do a little bit of. He said he can do some joinery work, but not to the top, cabinet level making. But the point is, he's never, ever been without work ever in 20 years. Because he's flexible, he's got different skills, and what he originally trained for wasn't his own thing, but he can always fall back on that and he can do it any time. So I think you're right that having a basis, a skill, is very important. PwC, in fact, has got the largest, I think, number of professional apprenticeships. In other words, you can become a chartered accountant with them through the apprenticeship route rather than degree route, I think, than any firm. So things are changing. You don't have to be defined by your qualification. So let's just move on to what you've learned about money so far from your studies, because I know you're a young man, you're starting out, you sound to me like you're doing all the right things, but what is it, I'd like to hear in your own language what you've learned about the role of money in people's lives and how to make sure it's a force for good and it helps you, not hinders you. So what have you learned so far, just in a simple summary, really?
To invest. I remember reading this book a while ago, and it said that the 3 questions they asked these people: what makes you most happy, what makes you most unhappy, and what worries you the most? And all of the top answers were money. And I feel like people, I mentioned earlier on that I was sort of like a saver, my parents are savers, but I think the biggest thing I've learned is that you need to invest as early as possible, because essentially by investing today and giving up some of your wealth and money today and putting it to work, you're then essentially buying back future time and freedom that you can have in the future. So I would just say, I can't actually overstate that enough. Just you need to invest as early and as soon as possible, and really as much as possible, and then you can enjoy the fruits of your labor further down the line.
Yeah. So when it comes to thinking about investing, it's not just about investing in the stock market, is it? It's also about investing in yourself, which you're doing at the moment. So what are your thoughts on that and what you share with your followers?
Yeah, so I think investing in yourself at any age really, but especially if you're younger, is probably the best way you can spend your money. So I would first of all say, when it comes to investing in yourself, people automatically think of investing money. So buying a really expensive course or something like that. It's not necessarily money. You can also invest your time and energy. So being a student, for example, you haven't got any money, but you've got so much time. You can take a course on YouTube to learn how to code. You can go to networking events and meet new people who are like-minded. So it's not necessarily just about investing money into expensive courses. You can also invest your time and energy. But I would say the simplest and probably best thing you can do is just buy a few books, go on Amazon, they're £5-10 a book, get a few books, do a bit of reading around something you're interested in. Hasn't necessarily got to be finance. If you're interested in geography, history, architecture, whatever it is, and then that will then sort of give you a good grounding. And what you'll discover is you'll then know what you enjoy more, and then you can get more niche and specific as you, I guess, find out what your passion is.
It's an interesting point that there are no leaders who are not readers. And this thing about you can only do so much. Yes, I've got a regime. I read 1 non-fiction book a week, minimum.
Nice.
I watch 2 or 3 TED Talks a week, minimum. And I'm always reading 1 or 2 long form and 2 or 3 short form blogs from quality writers and people that I rate. And the problem I think that a lot of people have is that whilst we can make money, dealing with money easier, we can't make it easy. You have to put some time and some effort into it. And if you're spending more time grazing over social media rubbish and crap that doesn't serve any purpose, it's all about consumption, then don't be surprised if you don't understand and you don't have the wherewithal. So what about developing good habits, routines, and behaviors? What's your thoughts on that?
Focus on one thing at a time. I feel like people, you know, they say like from Monday, I'm going to go to the gym, drink 4 liters of water, read a book a week, start an Instagram account, stop, like, just focus on
do a marathon.
Having got to be from Monday or from the first day of the month or the first day of the year. Just from today, just start doing something that is going to benefit you in the future. So whether it's, and I would say as well, just start off, don't put too much pressure on yourself. So just say, you know, you're a bit unfit, you want to start going to the gym. Don't go to the gym every single day for a week because you're going to lose motivation. You're going to be burnt out. Just start by going 2 or 3 times a week and then build up that habit over time. You know, another good one is, obviously one in terms of money, one great one is just save. When you get paid, on the day you get paid, just transfer even £50 to a separate bank account and then start saving.
Yeah, that's a good one. Well, here's the thing. I mean, if you people identify their behaviors with who they are, right? So some people say, I'm not good with money. Now, what they're saying is, I haven't learned the right mechanisms, I haven't created the right environment, I haven't created the right routines, and I haven't created the right focus to do the right things. That's what they're saying, because they label their actions as if that's who they are, good or bad. So I agree with you. And automate. So if it's 20 quid a month, just start, you know, I would rather you start saving 20 quid a month into an account you just can't get your hands on, and just forget it, because it's not painful. It's simple. Same as if you're going to read about money, right? You're only allowed to read 3 pages. If you say to yourself, you can only read 3 pages, it doesn't sound, I can read 3 pages, can't I? But you know what happens? Before you know it, you've read 8 pages.
Yeah. That's a good example. Yeah.
Yeah. Same as your budget. So another one on the budget, if you're trying to work out where your money's going, don't get all too, you know, the big deal. Just say, all you've got to do is list out your core direct debits. Just do that. Yeah. Right? Don't worry about the whole budget. Just do that. Yeah. Right. Then when you've done that, another day you can say, I'm going to look at last month's what I spent on shopping. Just do that. You know, so it's just small bit. And before you know it, over about 3 weeks, you've built your historic budget, haven't you? Yeah.
And I was going to say, actually, you just briefly touched on it, but I think particularly with money, mindset and emotion is such a big thing. So I know you mentioned earlier on, you know, mortgage, it's an emotional thing. Yes. Money, generally, if you talk about money, you normally get a reaction out of people, often bad if they've had a bad experience. But it's such a, and I think people need to understand, you know, it's, if you have got like bad attachments to money, that's not a bad thing at all. But the first thing is to recognize that. And then you need to change your mindset. So rather than saying, you know, I can't save, think like, how can I save £20 a month, as you were saying, rather than I don't understand how to invest. You know, what are you doing to learn how to understand? Just watch one 20-minute YouTube video a week. And then over time, you start, then your mindset sort of changes from, I guess, thinking negatively to thinking positively. And when it comes to money, like, having a positive thinking and just a positive mindset is really important.
There's 2 angles to that, Ryan, which I'd appreciate your perspective and thoughts on. There is the idea of mindset in terms of money abundance versus money scarcity. That's a real big one. So if you think money is scarce, it won't come to you. It doesn't want to hang out with people who don't like it, right? When I say don't like it, you know, aren't open to it. Whereas abundance, there's plenty of money out there. And if you create value in the world, it will come to you, right? Yeah. But equally, if it comes to you and you don't treat it right, it's a bit like a boyfriend or a girlfriend. They're not going to hang about, right? It's not going to hang about. Yeah. So I just wonder what your thoughts are. And there's another angle I'll come back to get your thoughts on, but on that whole abundance versus scarcity issue.
Yeah, I do. I support that view, to be honest with you. I remember it was in the book I read a few years ago saying essentially there's literally trillions of dollars of transactions every single day. If you can just create a service or a product or something that delivers value, you'll be able to then participate in that flow of money. I think it might seem far-fetched, I think, starting out, you know, there's money's flowing, there's loads of it around, whereas I'm just working a 9 to 5 and you know, I've got to pay tax and national insurance and rent. But then I think once you actually just start looking at your money, you know, get the budget set up, how can I save and invest? Then you go on and start a side hustle or something on the side. And I think that's probably a big one, actually. Even if it's just buying, just selling some items in your loft, buying some items and selling them on for more, you then really start to discover that you can make money in so many ways. And the more you do, and the more value, as you said, you provide, the more that will flow to you. And it's sort of like a snowball effect.
That's right. So just thinking about other aspects of people's sort of money journey, you mentioned the word attachment. Now, attachment in Buddhism, so I've studied all the different disciplines. I mean, I'm an atheist, just get that one out there, but I love looking at all of the different religions, all the different thought processes and all the different philosophers. And Buddhism really says a lot of pain, as humans are trying to avoid pain and gain pleasure, right? And the pain comes from attachment to either the need to be loved, the need to be wanted, the need to be connected and be part of something. And that often drives spending decisions. So the swanky car on finance, you can't really afford, but you're not putting 15% of your income into your pension, but you've got a car of £500 a month because you think it makes you look cool, right?
Yeah.
Or the exotic holiday you're posting on Instagram because you think, oh, humble brag. Oh, wish you were all here. I'm on the beach in Bali. You know what I mean? With a gorgeous boyfriend or girlfriend. Aren't I living the perfect life? That is a desperate need for acceptance, love, and attachment, right? So if you have voids as opposed to values, that will drive your spending. Just wonder what your thoughts are on that whole spending equation. So we dealt with the income side, the spending equation, particularly amongst young people in your age group, and how they're thinking about it. Because some of them have got a victim mentality. Oh, it's all terrible. Yeah. And others think, well, hang on, there's opportunity around me.
Yeah.
But every generation's had challenges. Every generation thinks they're in uniquely difficult times. So I'm just wondering what you're thinking about that, the role of social media, peers, marketing on people's spending decisions and how it keeps them poor.
No, I completely agree with what you're saying. I think social media particularly has driven this whole era of society where people are more interested in looking rich and looking happy and looking wealthy than actually just being happy and spending money on things that they enjoy. So as you were saying, this whole concept of lifestyle inflation, which has been around for a while, but it's probably more elevated now of consumer items, like going on like big expensive holidays, buying fancy cars, having like the nicest designer clothes, where people are getting into these huge amounts of debt and not really actually that they're buying a Gucci t-shirt for £500 just because they're going to post an Instagram.
Is there a Gucci t-shirt for 500 quid?
Yeah, I think like Gucci, them sort of like Supreme, them sort of brands are about £500 for a t-shirt. And then
I thought I was paying a lot when I paid £7 for this. Sorry, go on.
I think society really doesn't help. Social media really doesn't help out, particularly a lot of these like vloggers and bloggers, particularly on YouTube as well, that like live in LA or Hollywood, that wearing thousands of pounds worth of jewelry and t-shirts and trainers and stuff. So it then drives this perception that in order to be successful, you need to then have these things. But if you just take a step back and think about it logically, if you get a t-shirt from H&M for £4 or a Gucci t-shirt for £500, what effect does that actually have on you? You're only really buying an expensive t-shirt to try and look cool and impress other people. Whereas the people that actually care about you and like are there for you don't really care what t-shirt you wear. They just want you to be happy. So I think society drives and social media drives this perception that you need to have materialistic things to be successful, where in fact it's actually the opposite. I heard this really good quote the other day where I can't remember what context it was in, but there was this billionaire who was giving a big talk or something. And then on the side, there's sort of a guy who's quite wealthy. He's done well for himself. And then someone comes up to him and says, don't you wish he was him, the billionaire? And then the guy goes to him, I don't, because I have something that he will never have enough. And that's the thing where people always want more and more, whereas the actual less you have, and when you have enough, you feel a lot happier.
Yeah, there's a great Seneca quote which I put on Instagram the other day, or my daughter did, about you ask how much is enough, and and it's not having everything you want, it's wanting what you have. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Look, but there's nothing wrong with buying nice things. I've written in my blogs, there's nothing wrong with having nice things if you're intentional, and if you aren't in debt. And if you've got savings on my website, you go to the money milestones, the 8 money milestones, you must do 1 to 4 in order. Once you've done 1 to 4 in order, you can then go 5, 6, 7, 8 concurrently. Yeah. There's nothing complicated about it, you know? So
I think if you are buying, if you are generally buying something because you know, maybe you love cars and you love this really expensive car, then that's obviously fine having that goal. But it's when you're buying something and deep down you're trying to impress other people or trying to get people to think.
That's right. It's buying it for the right reasons and when you can afford it, not buying it for the wrong reasons or when you can't afford it. Either way,
delayed gratification and that whole sort of thing. Yeah.
So look, before we finish up, give us a few insights as to, you post lots on Instagram. You got the world and its dog following you, right? From nowhere. So well done. What perspectives, feedback could you give us about the kind of interactions that people seem to like about your stuff? What is it they like about it? What kind of material is it that you're getting good engagement with? Just so we get a feel for what in messages people, because we know there is an appetite for people to want to be better with money, but they're embarrassed to admit it, right?
I actually find that the simpler and more basic content does better. So just so when it comes to investing, just simple things such as using an index fund. What is an index fund? You know, paying down debt. Do you pay it with the avalanche method or the snowball method?
Snowball been proven through all research to be the single most effective way of repaying non-mortgage debt. Period.
You give like some numbers, and then I feel like there's the actual more basic. I do some more, I guess, more detailed posts, but I find that the more, even like things such as, you know, stocks and shares ISA, you get £20,000 allowance. This platform has a 0% platform fee, so use them. I find the more simpler, straight to the point, beginner-friendly content does better, because it's important, even if you are like an expert or you're advanced, it's important to first of all know the basics. And I feel like even though we both produce, you know, finance content, so we sort of have some background knowledge, a lot of people don't. Like if I mentioned some of this stuff to my mum, she would still have no idea what I'm talking about. So the average person doesn't still know the beginner-friendly stuff. So it's good to reiterate that in a simple way.
And also, Ryan, I would have suspected a lot of your followers, do you suspect, are younger people, or is it a real range?
Yeah, I think my demographic is mainly about 18 to 30. I've got a few older followers, but most people are in their 20s.
You got me, I'm following you. Yeah.
Bringing up my average age.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, I think, and most people I do converse with, I would say actually as well, for anyone listening, you know, you can always message me on Instagram, I'll always reply. But most people I do converse with are as well in their, you know, late teens, 20s. So it's probably around that age.
And to what extent do you think that one of the big problems is not just the simplifying of the message and de-jargonization and making things, like you say, make it simple, but to what extent do you need to overcome people's innate fear of money because they feel either being ridiculed or vulnerable, or they feel stupid that they should know more, or they do the ostrich thing, you know, put my head in the sand because it's too painful. To what extent do you think you need to overcome that, and how are you doing that through your content?
You do definitely need to overcome that, because at the end of the day, no matter how much you read or learn, or even if, you know, you make your own finance page, you're the one that's in control of your money. And you need to make the right decision with your money. So no matter how much you learn and how much you think you know, you need to actually be taking the right action with your money. Overcoming that fear is difficult. You know, if you've maybe had a bad experience with, you know, a credit card in the past, and you've got into debt and now you hate credit cards. I think, like anything in life, you just got to face it. Just first of all, accept it. Okay, you've got into high interest debt. Credit cards aren't necessarily bad. You just messed up in that time, but then moving forward, you know that, and you're going to learn from that. So that's what I would say in terms of facing the fear. And then what was the other thing you asked? Sorry, Jason.
I was saying facing the fear, but also the fear that people are going to feel, you know, that it's not for them, or, you know, the jargon overwhelms them, or they put their head in the sand, the ostrich bit, you know, I'm not going to deal with it.
I would say the best thing is you just need to ask questions, even if it is jargon free and you still don't understand it. Just whoever's, you know, especially like the UK finance community that me and you are involved in, everyone is nice. Everyone wants to help out. If someone sends me a message saying, what's an ISA? It's one of the most basic questions you can ask, but I'm still going to record a voice note and explain to you the different types of ISAs, how much you can invest. So the best thing is just, if you have a question, ask. And I would also say, if you have someone in your life, or someone that's actually interested in money, or like maybe they've got their own property, whatever it is, just speak to them about it, because what you'll find is by opening up to people, they might know things that you don't know, and you can just learn a lot more in that sort of comfortable environment.
Mm-hmm. Well, look, I mean, Ryan, it's been great talking to you. I know you're only at the beginning of your journey, but I wanted to get you on because I know you've got a refreshing take on it. You're one of the few sort of UK based personal finance kind of new media guys and girls. Look, anyway, so that's it. Money Made Simple. Ryan King, you're a superstar. Really appreciate you being on the show, and I'll be watching you with great interest. Keep doing the good work.
Thank you very much. Cheers, Jason.
Thanks for listening. If you want more money insights, do visit my website at jason-butler.com or connect with me on Twitter or Instagram at JB the Wealth Man. See you next time.